Welcome to Intel on AI, the podcast that connects leaders with listeners. My name is Heather McGuigan, and I am your host. Today's guest is Baris Sarer. Baris is the global leader of Deloitte's AI practice for the technology, media and entertainment, and telecom (TMT) industries. He's recognized as a thoughtful leader, frequently contributing as a writer and speaker at industry forums, publications, and events. His insightful contributions have shaped discourse on the evolution of AI and its transformative impact on business, technology, and culture. Currently, Baris focuses on unlocking the potential of AI in the TMT industry, developing deep insights into the sector, and understanding the emerging AI vendor ecosystem and opportunities for value creation and monetization. So, just a small job, right, Baris?
Yes, it is. Thanks for
Welcome
having
to
me
the
here,
pod.
Heather.
We're so happy you're here. We've got a series of questions, so I'm going to dive in if you're ready.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So let's start with the buzz, agentic AI. What does that term really mean in an enterprise context, and why should business leaders care right now?
Well, that's a great question to start this dialogue with. As you know, 2 years ago when Gen AI burst onto the scene, there was like a really big buzz in the marketplace. A lot of our clients started an experimentation journey across the enterprise, really. Whether sales or marketing or other corporate functions, AI start getting integrated into products. But there was an interesting missing link in all of this. A lot of these solutions revolve around a co-pilot model, really embodied in the form of a chatbot. So ask a question, get an answer, which is great because now we're dealing with an evolution of AI that can handle unstructured data, which created a bunch of new opportunities that were previously unthinkable. But the challenge with that was, if you really want to move the needle in the enterprise and talk about, you know, 5x benefits, 10x efficiencies, etc., there has to be a different way to approach this. It cannot be a string of point solutions attached together. And I think agentic is really the excitement around agentic is due to the fact that it's representing this step function improvement in what you can actually do with AI. Because now we're talking about looking at an end-to-end process and reimagine it or redesign it with an AI native or AI first mindset. And so the fundamental question, which is leading to all this excitement, is if I were to design my enterprise processes or business processes today, knowing what I can do with AI, would I design them the way I did 20 years ago, 30 years ago? And the answer to that would be no. And that's this possibility that's getting all of our clients excited, because now maybe we can go in with an AI first approach, with an automation first approach, and really change the way we work, and not just apply AI to the tasks that we go through historically day to day.
So, what are some of the most exciting ways that agentic AI could help reimagine key processes in your industries like telecom, media, and tech?
Well, the way we think about it, implementing AI, we typically think about it in two ways, right? Where there are corporate functions that are somewhat universal across all of our client base. For example, you will have a finance organization. There's going to be an accounts payable, accounts receivable, credit and collections, et cetera, groups. People will be onboarded, offboarded as part of the human resources processes, et cetera. These are corporate functions. And now there's a possibility to reimagine them, like I said before. And then when we do that, we're talking about a redesign where we assume that the process will be fully automated or something close to it. And a human's role will be architecting or reimagining this process and intervening and basically providing stewardship to an agent-run process. And so the whole back office can be reinvented. And you can take it to the front office too, whether it's sales or marketing. Again, obviously sales and marketing require creativity, human interaction, et cetera. And therefore, what is the level of AI assistant that we can provide to our sellers so that they can sell a lot more effectively? Is there a way to create that capacity so that we can reach deeper into our pipeline? Or maybe from a customer service perspective, They're underserved segments of our customer base because we just don't have enough human capacity. Can we expand the human capacity so we can serve all of our customers a lot more effectively? And then you can go into your products and services and reinvent them. You can reinvent your product design and research and development processes in a similar fashion. So once you start realizing the scope of the opportunity, it's nearly endless. Really, there's no part of the enterprise you wouldn't be able to apply this AI native approach. Now, I will admit that you know everything looks great when it's greenfield. In real life, you always have an existing organization and existing systems environment, well-established processes and habits. So this change is not going to be that easy, but we now know at least that it's possible.
So, Agentic AI definitely sounds futuristic. Autonomous agents acting on behalf of humans. How do we ensure trust and governance and accountability when these agents make decisions?
That's an excellent question. So it's the old adage: with great power comes great responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Let me temper the expectations a little bit, in the sense that with Gen AI, everybody talked about, for example, hallucinations, right? So if you have one chatbot, they could make mistakes, and if you connect 5 of them together, the risks will also compound. So, in other words, one way to look at agentic AI is, you know, the the uh, uh, the possibility of large scale reinvention of how we do business. But on the opposite side, well, that's going to introduce a lot of risk too. So, as you design these systems, you have to really establish proper controls at every step of the way. And one way to think about this is, and I use this analogy quite a bit. Think about our experience with cars. 20, 30 years ago, you drove your own car and
Yeah,
the car didn't drive itself. And
that's right.
the level of autonomy was zero. And then at some point, we had a button where we could press on and then we're on a cruise control mode. So the car is kind of going at right?
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And then the next level of autonomy happened when the car starts signaling us, "Hey, maybe you're drifting a little bit off your lane." But this is more of a suggestion. It's not actually
yeah,
putting you back in your lane, so to speak. It's just letting you know that you're drifting a little bit. And
yeah.
now we're talking about robo taxis, right? Fast forward 10, 15 years. The point I'm trying to make is there's going to be a progression from asking a question to chatbot to letting a chatbot run an entire business process where human intervention will only apply when it's needed. But to get to that level of autonomy, we have to establish controls at every step of the way. And over time, as we gain confidence in the performance, stability, reliability of the systems, then I think some of these controls maybe roll back or change form over time. But the point I'm trying to make is the question you're asking is really important. We cannot trust them day one. There's no proof point yet.
Yeah.
And it will be a journey. And I don't think it will be, um, let me put it this way. It's not going to be a decades long journey, but it's not right. Full autonomy is not right around the corner either. We need
Mhm.
to get there one step at a time, make sure that we're getting the right returns from these investments. They're reliable. And ultimately, on both sides of it, we got our enterprises, clients, and then they have their customers. And this confidence should be built on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, I just got a car with a backup camera and like I kind of trust it. But like I'm getting more used to sort of like actually
Right.
trusting that it's going to do the same thing every time, but I still find myself like in moments where it's tight that I'm like, nope, I'm going to
Right.
lift all the way. But you do get used to it. You do start to trust it a little more. Absolutely. So, are we moving towards a future where enterprise workflows are reimagined around agents rather than humans orchestrating systems?
What I think the trajectory is. I would say this journey really started in earnest this year. So, if I were to take a step back and put it in a bit of a timeline, in 2023 was the start of the Gen AI revolution, and a lot of our clients started working on proof of concept experimentations and pilots and things like that. I think 2025 is shaping to be the big year for agentic AI, but we're still in the early innings. And, if I were to kind of try to see where the puck is going based on our, vast client experience, I think the trajectory is that we're going to test things out this year. Tools are quickly maturing. There are new protocols, there are new tools, there are new capabilities, reference architectures, all these things. Let's say the building blocks are maturing really fast. And I think we're going to see a gradual shift over the next 2 to 3 years uh, in this very direction that you described. But like I said before, it has to be a very controlled shift. And we have to build the controls and gain confidence and trust as we go along.
Can you share a scenario where an agentic AI capability added measurable business value, possibly a story from a client or the industry?
Yeah, for example, we deployed an agentic AI solution for one of our clients. They're in the technology business, specifically hardware, and they have a big seller base. And one of the bigger challenges for this 2,000 strong sales force is there are many systems they gather information from. They need to stitch it together. There's no commonality in how they do it. There's no commonality how they pitch their own products to their prospects. While the information, the competitive intelligence is available, it's not always utilized in making these pitches to position themselves more favorably in relative terms to their competitors. Um, the information is available, but it's just distributed, and it's really hard to enforce a standardized process around it because there's no automation in place. So we came up with the idea of, what if we create an automated scaffolding to support the sellers and enable them, and use an agentic construct to do that. And what the agentic construct does is, unlike point solutions, you can pull some data, pull a little bit more data, deploy one capability, and deploy more capabilities over time. And we started this journey and ultimately start enabling the salespeople to imagine the scenario: you're in front of your laptop in the morning with your coffee, and you're beginning the day. You don't have to go through 30, 40, 50 systems. What you need to do on any given day is already gathered together, synthesized for you. You know who to call on, you know what to follow up on, your emails are drafted, your meetings are lined up, your prep documents are ready, and even your pitch decks are up to 70% ready. So you got a good solid deck to fine tune. And all of the critical information, whether it's information about your own products or your competitor's product and competitive intelligence, or your prospect's situation in the marketplace, so you can tailor your pitch, um, taking into account their business situation. All of that is done ready for you. Like, this is one example of the power of agentic. I'll give you one more example. We deployed an invoice management solution and automated 92% of the process. It's 92%. It's not 10% improvement, 20% improvement. The entire process is now 92% automated. And 8% is when you actually have to deal with exceptions and situations that require human intervention for other reasons.
So, how do you advise C suite leaders to begin investing in or experimenting with agentic AI? Especially those who feel like maybe they're a little late to the party to begin with.
Look, so let me break the good news. Nobody's late to the party. The party has just started.
Good for you. Good stuff.
We're just having our first drinks, relax and enjoy, right?
Yeah, fashionably late. Fashionably late.
But joke aside, the truth is, if they're people should get started. I mean, there's a learning process. We talked about confidence building, trust building. It requires that you also lean in as an organization at every level and get up to speed. And so part of what I will say is, get started now. You're not late, but get started now. That's one message. The second part is, I would invite people to shift their thinking away from the use case and co-pilot based AI implementations, which really have been the major theme in the marketplace. Because now with agentic AI, we're talking about processes. And it's almost like, sometimes I call it back to the future. There was a time mid 90s actually, or 2000s, people talked about, Six Sigma, black belt process expertise, business process reengineering, and it kind of fell out of favor came back a little bit. Now, agentic is really breathing life into the whole notion of what do we do day to day? How are we doing it? And is there a better way to do it with AI? And therefore, it's time to forget about like these point solutions and specific use cases and take a step back, look at your end-to-end processes and try to reimagine them. And therefore, my suggestion would be think processes and then think about reinventing them. But that also requires that you understand what the art of the possible is. And therefore, getting up to speed on the capabilities of agentic AI is also important. So if I were to summarize it, I would say lean in and lean in now. And this would be my message to all executives. This is not one group's responsibility. This is not a technical solution that your IT leaders should deploy. It's going to take a village. A lot of the business processes straddle across the organization. And therefore, I would encourage everybody to upskill in the space and start looking at what they do day to day and redefine it with AI. That I think would be the approach.
Do you hear that, everybody? Were you listening? Baris said so. Get on it. Get after it. Now, what is one misconception you often hear about agentic AI? And as you referenced the mid 90s to 2000s, I can't help but think about all those futuristic movies with iRobot. And there was like that one with Tom Cruise with the woman in the goo, and he had all these cool things and a self driving car. What is a misconception you often hear about agentic AI that you'd like to correct?
Well, so the AI industry, broadly speaking, is a little interesting. Please allow me to take a little bit of a step back in time. There was a time
Yeah.
when we called ourselves information management people.
Hmm.
The acronyms were IM, that stood for information management. BI was a thing, business intelligence.
Yeah.
And there was big data. There was analytics, and it became advanced analytics, and then AI and ML and AI, and then Gen AI. But now, if you go into a meeting, and if you talk about Gen AI instead of agentic, people look at you say, "Oh, this is so 2024. You sound so outdated."
Oh, 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 how judgmental.
Exactly. So, but joke aside, it's very easy to get caught up in the branding and acronyms and the spirit of the moment. And the industry is very quick and responsive in that regards. Like all products get rebranded and all that stuff. So I think it's important to understand that agentic AI is not the new name for chatbots. It actually means something else. And maybe it's running in the background, like in the example of a sales operations solution that I talked about. I'm not talking to a chatbot, but a bot worked tirelessly all night when I was sleeping to put all this information, synthesize it, analyze it, captured it, pulled it from different places to make me ready for my client action or customer action that day, right? So I think this is one misconception. Everybody's branding everything as agents, but it's really important to understand that what we're talking about here is multiple agents. Maybe they're not even visible to you. It's maybe just talking to one another, machine to machine, getting things done for you so that you can do your job better. I think this is an important misconception to clarify. And again, I think the other one is the use case concept. You can apply a chatbot to a use case where you can ask questions, but an agent needs to be applied to a business process. So thinking big and end to end is going to be to critically important to take full advantage of it.
So at Deloitte, you talk about the age of with. What does that mindset shift mean for how enterprises should approach AI?
Well, I think there's this anxiety in the marketplace, and somewhat justified. People keep hearing about automation and agents and bots, and it creates the perception of, are we getting replaced? And ultimately, what we're trying to accomplish is to equip people with better tools
Mhm.
to do their jobs more efficiently, more effectively. And ultimately, if you look at the opportunity areas, those are the areas those are the tasks that we actually don't like doing, right? It's the
Yeah.
most administrative part of what we do.
Yeah.
that we would avoid it if we could, and now we could, right?
Mhm.
So, so the spirit of Agent With is bringing humans and machines together, and this is already the reality. I mean, I'm staring at a laptop. We're already together with machines,
Yeah.
but now the machine is becoming more intelligent, and so we're going to get more out of that relationship. And having that, maintaining that perspective is really important. And I think this is what we believe is happening. It's not a net new thing. We've been on this path for decades now, but with first generative AI and now agentic, or let's say with large language models, it just took to or got to the next level. And my reaction to that, and over time, I think that my view really got solidified. Looking at practical examples, my view was that you wouldn't tell, or you wouldn't build a backlog of 1,000 applications to develop, right? So there was something positive in the sense that our clients were harnessing the energy of like everybody getting excited and ideating, and that was positive to start with. But then if you really want to scale, you have to get a little bit more um, intentional and focused over time. And therefore, to me, the right number of things to do shouldn't be measured in thousands or hundreds. It should be tens or even single digits. Because this is a really impactful solution. The path to scaling means you have to prioritize, you have to pick the right battles, but then go all in and not just deploy solutions, but make sure that they're actually adopted and put into good use at the enterprise. So to me, scaling is not so much about a volume or numbers game. It's about taking it all the way through to end user adoption, whether the end users are your employees or your customers. I think that was the missing part. And a lot of people spend, I think, too much time uh, experimenting with a long. Yes, I think they almost overwhelm themselves. It would have been a lot more productive if they just focus on a few big opportunity spaces and go all in. And I think a lot of our clients came to the same conclusion, and we're seeing a lot more focused focus in the marketplace.
You've worked on complex programs around the globe. What is a regional trend or difference in AI adoption that most people might not expect?
Well, it's interesting. I'll give examples from the telco space. So first of all, in the U.S., we're a little bit blessed being in the middle of this action. Um, I think in terms of just technology maturity and the resources we have, uh, it's at a different level. And I think, and I really love that. Putting my U.S. hat on, I really enjoy being able to engage technology innovators like Intel and others, and have the opportunity to be in the middle of this action. Um, Now, if you go to other parts of the world, especially in my industry, you're going to find that they're tackling different problems. For example, I had this really interesting moment I want to share with you. I was at Mobile World Congress, and I was talking to the group CIO in a fireside chat. I was actually Heather play your role in that conversation. I was having a chat with the group CIO of a, a, um, a telco that's a multinational telco,
Mhm.
operational in 16 different countries across Middle East and Africa. And then this gentleman said, our ARPU is about 30, 34. I heard it, I thought, at least that's what I thought he said. And I said, that's pretty respectable, $34 a month. It's lower than the US, but totally understandable. He corrected me. He said, no, it's $3 to $4. This is the ARPU in the context of telco is how much money you make from your subscribers on a monthly basis. So if you're making $3 to $4 per subscriber, you have to get really, really, really efficient in how you run your operations on a whole different scale. And therefore, you have to be really thoughtful about the investments you're making. You have to be really thoughtful about the type of return you should expect from them. And you cannot really afford to miss an opportunity to get even more efficient, or you cannot afford to overinvest in an area where you're not getting good returns. And so I'm finding more creativity in other markets because they're tackling more difficult problems or operating with fewer resources. And that's leading to, let's say, more creative approaches in how they leverage AI or technology in general, operating from a position of bigger constraints.
How is Deloitte working with strategic partners to accelerate enterprise AI adoption? And what types of partnerships do you think are most impactful?
In this environment, so first of all, we have some strategic partners. There are also new players that this whole AI revolution created. So we're taking a, you know, we're t- we've come to the realization over the past couple years that the market is shaping really fast. There are new players. There are, let's say, traditional players with new products. There are startups and that are traditional players getting into the AI game. So our perspective is to take an ecosystem stance. We understand it's going to take a village to make this market work. Especially we're especially if you think about the fact that even just this year in the past 12 months around agentic AI, we now have new open source protocols. I'll mention two like MCP or A2A. And one of the realizations that we had was that competing partners in the marketplace actually got behind the same solutions so that the market could coalesce around a more robust set of solutions, and that would accelerate the market. The point being, it's really important to understand that in order for this market to develop and for our clients to get good returns on it, people should play along and invest in a joint vision. Obviously, there's going to be competition, but it's really important to put all of our best solutions and products together. And as Deloitte, we have to do that anyways. And therefore, we're really taking an ecosystem view of the world and trying to make sure that we have our partners lined up, their solutions well understood by our clients. And so the whole AI journey gets accelerated in that fashion.
I want to talk a little bit about leadership. What advice would you give other executives about navigating the hype cycles and making smart, value driven AI investments?
This is a question that I really like. Uh, the reason why I like it is I think this new market requires a different leadership mindset. I think a few things change. First of all, historically, technology was a chief information officer or chief technology or digital officer domain, right? And then the business leaders assume that as long as they can articulate their needs, the technology leaders in the organization could find the right solution for that, right? But now we're in a very heavily disrupted market in a positive way. There are more possibilities, and it's really critically important in my mind that everybody gets educated on what AI has to offer. And when I say everybody, I mean literally everybody, from the CEO to board members. And I actually seen a CEO. We had a meeting with her and her leadership team, one of the financial services clients. And she came and told me that she just vibe coded something last night. She was playing with, I won't mention the tool, but one of the AI coding tools. She said, I spent a couple hours, but I got a really nice working application now. And to me, that was something, really impressive. And I think CEO on down, everybody should lean in and educate themselves. That's number one. And then second, I think it's really important to upskill the entire organization, because for this agentic AI vision to come to life, technologists cannot solve them alone. There has to be somebody who understands the business process to say, well, you know what? Now that this technology is available, I can actually do this thing fundamentally differently. Let me redesign it, reimagine it, and then our technology partners can come and implement that for us. That's where we are in the marketplace. So the leadership needs to be educated, and then the whole employee base needs to be upskilled. And then people should be given the opportunity to experiment. That's also important, right? Because people learn, not everyone, but a lot of people learn better when they actually get their hands and feet wet. And I think the leadership should allow for that experimentation to happen. Not everything is going to pay off, but people will learn a lot along the way and get ready to embrace the change rather than staying away from it and taking a wait and see approach.
I have one last question
Sure.
for you. Looking 2 to 3 years out, how do you think agentic AI will reshape the expectations for enterprise performance or customer experience?
Well, I think a few things will change fundamentally. One is we're going to have a digital workforce. I don't think we are ready to embrace that yet. But it's probably good time we started thinking about it and what that actually meant. Um, and so that's going to bring in new expectations. That's going to bring in new performance indicators. Let me ask you a question. If you can automate 92% of your invoice management process, would the metrics associated with that, for example, in terms of how quickly you can process an invoice, would it be the same as it was before? It wouldn't be, right? If a lot of your software development could be done by AI, are we talking about weeks to finish a project or hours, right? And so I think the performance expectations within the enterprise will evolve. I think that's one thing that's guaranteed. And then over time, I think that's going to start changing the composition of the workforce. Like I said, there's an element of digital workforce and a human workforce. Obviously, to what extent that will go, we're going to see that. But I think that's one major change that will happen over time. And then from a customer experience standpoint, I think customers will also start getting used to the idea of their problems getting solved by agents and quickly and very efficiently. And therefore, customer expectations will continue to get a lot more elevated, whether it's in terms of getting an answer to their question, getting a service completed, getting an issue fixed. I think those customer expectations will be highly elevated. And hopefully that's going to be the end of us getting on call center lines and waiting on hold.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you do that now? Thank you. Could you get on that part? That would be great. I got to call my cell phone provider tomorrow. So if you could just get that going.
Yeah.
Um, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was such a fascinating conversation. This was Baris Sarer. For Intel on AI, my name is Heather McGuigan. Thanks for watching today. Bye.
Visit intel.com/AI to learn more.